NHL, December 25th, 1912. He started in the first game on artificial ice in Eastern Canada, December 25th, 1912, Mutual Arena Garden in Toronto. He started in the first NHL game ever played. First NHL game ever played. Montreal, December 19th, 1917. He started in the first NHL game ever played in Toronto, December 22nd, 1917. He was the first player contracted by the Toronto franchise, which is today's Maple Leafs. He was the first Toronto captain in 1917-18. He was on the first Toronto Stanley Cup champions in 1918. He started in the first game where numbers were mandatory. That was December 23rd, 1919. Before then, they didn't have numbers on the back. So if you bought one of those replica sweaters with a number on the back from 1917-18, it's a fake. He started in a game with the largest pro attendance up till that time in Ottawa, January 24th, 1920. He played on the first hockey team to travel by motor coach, Toronto to Hamilton. It wasn't a long ride, but they, previous to that, took trains. That was January the 3rd, 1921. He led the first Wildcat player strike in hockey. They struck for $200 more in playoff money. The strike lasted an hour. March 14th, 1921. He played in the first hockey preseason tour. In baseball, we call it barnstorming. It had never been done in hockey up to that point in time because they played on artificial ice, or natural ice, before artificial ice. And the Western League had artificial ice by the time they decided they would try a barnstorming tour. That was in December 1922 when he toured with the Stanley Cup Toronto St. Pat's. That led to the expansion of the NHL a short two years later. He started in the first professional game Foster Hewitt broadcast on the radio, February the 24th, 1923. He started in the first NHL game where two on-ice officials were mandatory, February the 24th, 1923. Beforehand, there was a referee and a goal judge. Some games had two refs, but it didn't become mandatory until 1923. He started in the first NHL game with no penalties, February the 24th, 1924. That was rare in the age of brutality, and the NHL was then in its 7th season. And in that same game, he played 60 minutes, and he played every position except goal. He started in the first game at the original Montreal Forum, December 3rd, 1924. The attendance set a record for a crowd up to that time. He led the first players' strike in March of 1924 when the National Hockey League champions, Hamilton Tigers, went on strike for playoff money. There hasn't been any NHL hockey in Hamilton since. Frank Calder suspended the entire team, but it was the day they had a big payday. 1 year later, they were in New York, playing for the New York Americans, where they tripled their salary. He assisted on the first New York Americans goal in franchise history. It was at Pittsburgh, December 2nd, 1925. And he started in the first game ever at Madison Square Garden, December 15th, 1925. It smashed attendance records with 17,992 looking on. That was double what they played in front of before that. He played in the first professional game in any known sport to have players' names as well as numbers on the back of their sweaters. New York and Boston, February 26, 1926. My cousin Ken McCauley, who's with us today, has that original sweater. Game 1, February 1926. I'll finish with what I think are two of my grandfather's most curious achievements, considering he played most of his pro career as a defenseman. He scored on 7 Hockey Hall of Fame goalkeepers. There are just 35 in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He scored 71 goals in 219 NHL games over 10 seasons. Schedules were short in those days. 15 of those goals were game winners. That's a percentage of 21 deciding goals. 21%. That's the highest percentage in 100 NHL seasons. Yes, Gretzky, Richard, and Howe included. 100 seasons. Thanks for listening to a capsulized version of his story. There's so much more in his biography, The Pepper Kid, which I recommend you buy, by the way. It's available online and at the Kent bookstore in town. And I'd read it before you see the movie.